America, Islam, and tolerance and acceptance. Tolerating another religion can be a trying task, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that we know nothing of the religion other than the extremism and the radicalization of other religions that we only see because of media outlets. In reality, radicalization and being forced is a big part of what other people in different countries has to go through. The truth is, we really don't know a lot about Islam. We don't know the difference between Islam and other Islams, such as and other religions, such as Sikhism. We realize that we have been conditioned to fear this religion, be conditioned to fear what we don't know about this religion. And honestly, by the time that we get to the point where we want to learn a little bit more, we've already had so much conditioning that we don't know whether or not we should fear it or not. I will be discussing the two views that Islam is a religion of peace or violence, the difference between tolerance and acceptance, and how to predetermine biases that can affect how we treat people without fair knowledge. I don't have my visual with me because my printer broke, but during my speech I'll be holding up a picture of a Sikh man and a Muslim man and ask you to tell me if you can spot a difference between them. The truth is, we probably won't be able to tell anything. We've been conditioned to see how these stereotypes will be based on how people look. They'll suggest that you don't even realize that you're doing this until you actually are faced with that situation. Implicit bias is a term used to describe when we have attitudes toward people associated with stereotypes with them without our conscious knowledge, which is Perception Institute, paragraph 1. Implicit bias can be redirected and you can reverse your own prejudices, but it takes a lot of effort and a lot of self-awareness to realize what your biases are. You may not even know that you are uncomfortable with someone unalike from our own culture, and to be honest, you may not even realize that when someone from a different culture walks by, that your demeanor will change, your defense mechanisms will kick in, you'll kind of like crouch your shoulders or kind of like look down or look away. Reasons that you may feel uncomfortable is because of your own unexposure to their religion. We see what we see on social media, but that's about it. Ways to change implicit bias would be exposing yourself to other cultures. So with Islam, if you don't have any Muslim friends, it's probably because of your stereotype that you don't even realize that you have. Another way to change it is to give a counterexample. So if you walk into a conversation and you hear that someone is attacking Islam or attacking somebody who appears to be Islam or Muslim, correct them. Say that they're not like that, and not all of them are radicalized. I would recommend maybe a well-educated Muslim, maybe like the author that I'm going to talk about, Ayaan Hirsi Ali, just to kind of tell them that they're not entirely correct. Is Islam a religion of peace or violence? Unfortunately, there is not a solid answer for this. My original plan was to go and talk to you guys about two different authors. One who is she's very advocate for believing that Islam is not a religion of peace, and the other is. But what I found during my research would actually be pretty shocking. I know that I was kind of torn apart about it. I had to go to outside sources other than the internet, which is something I actually didn't see coming. Ayaan Hirsi Ali sees in the Muslim culture that it's an indulgence in violence, and further than that, it's more of a justification for violence. Her quote is, "It's a culture of misogyny that needs to be addressed quickly and frankly, and we must not censor ourselves." That comes from Robbins, paragraph 2, which is an opinion page out of the Huffington Post. Mrs. Ali was persecuted. She was a practicing Muslim. She loved Islam. She was devout, just like her father, just like her mother. And then when she broke free of her religion, her collaborator on a film that she was trying to produce was killed in Amsterdam. The note left on her collaborator's body said, "In the name of Allah, most gracious and merciful, all enemies of Islam will be destroyed." Robbins, paragraph 2. Mrs. Ali warns of the use of words such as extremism and radical because she feels as though it deludes the world's population into believing that the practice of different Muslim communities is the result of a few bad apples. Ali believes that Westerners are victimizers of Middle Eastern culture because we continuously try to justify their acts of violence. As I said before, I was going to speak about a different author, but whenever I was researching everything, I found that I couldn't find one advocacy page. I had to go to like page 10 of Google, and at that point, you don't even know if it's a good source or not. So I'm going to try my best to talk to you guys about whether or not I believe if it's a religion of violence or peace. Islam translates into peace from Arabic, but unfortunately they believe in something such as the holy war, which, much like Christianity, Muslim believes that their religion is the true and only religion. There's nothing bad about that. But Islam was called upon to fight a holy war, to fight and defend their nation, not to go invade others. So just because a few people took it a different direction shouldn't be as bad as it is. The Christians did the same thing. As a matter of fact, this should sound vaguely familiar, almost like the Crusades. Christianity has had a time to develop and prosper. Muslims haven't had that opportunity yet. And lastly, tolerance and exceptions, to put it into the most textbook manner I possibly could. If a sign of tolerance is feeling that I can live with whatever behavior that you are doing, acceptance moves beyond that in the direction of this is okay. You can tolerate something without accepting it, but you cannot accept something without tolerating it. Should we tolerate this religion? Honestly, we have no moral or religious obligations to accept anything that makes us afraid or uncomfortable, but we should tolerate their religion, because if we don't, then we become exactly what we're fearing. Hopefully this was informative enough that now we can determine at least a few of our biases, and if there are still questions on implicit bias, you can go online and actually take the test. It will tell you some of what your biases are, and unfortunately determining whether or not Islam is a religion of peace or violence is a bit more complicated than a yes or a no. Lastly, yes, we should tolerate those whom are different, but at the very least, acceptance overall will make things easier.